Hey everyone, how y'all doing? This is Dwight Johnson with Total Athlete Sports Complex. We're here today, and Dr. O, this is our sports therapist with Total Athlete. We're here today with Coach Rock. Every episode we try to feature at least one of our coaches that come out of our program. They're making a lasting impact on our youth lives, and every coach is different. Every coach has a different style and technique. But Coach Rocky has done a great job, and I'm going to say this personally as a parent and from a coaching point of view. He has worked with my daughter for the past month, I would say.
2 months.
2 months, and I'm telling you, man, I've seen a world of difference. With just her mentality of the game of basketball, her technique, her dribbling, just her skills alone, all the way up. He's done a great job with her. And that's all she talks about is Coach Rocky, Coach Rocky. Then Coach Rocky told me this, Coach Rocky told me that. So we want to feature Coach Rocky today and just kind of get a chance to know a little bit about his background and his training program for basketball and what all that entails.
Yeah, Coach, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your history, where you're from, and everything like that.
Well, I lived my first 12 years in Arkansas. I was born in Camden, Arkansas, but actually lived 11 miles up the street in Chittister, Arkansas.
Okay.
And my mother moved to Chicago when I was probably about 3 years old, and I ended up living down there with my grandmother for a while until I moved to visit her in Chicago at 11, and then at 12 she kept me. So being up there at 12 years old, I ended up bouncing around in Michigan and stuff, playing in Covert, Michigan. And I ended up with a bad coach and stuff. I thought he was inconsistent.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to be a coach when I grow up, and I'm going to treat all the kids fairly and give them all a fair chance. There ain't going to be any politics. So going to that, I ended up, bouncing around to Chicago. And I ended up finishing school over there in Chicago. Then I moved to Rockford, Illinois, where I got into the YMCA and coaching basketball at 19. Then I was coaching at the middle school at 20. And it took on up to high school at 21.
Wow.
And they liked what I was doing up there.
Cool. That's good. So you found your passion at an early age,
yes,
and your purpose.
Yep.
Working with youth through basketball training.
Yes.
That's big, and I'm a strong believer that it's about building the confidence first. And I mean, me and you always talk back and forth about some coaches tear kids down, but
yes,
you got to build them up at the end of the day because it's all about that confidence. And we're big at Total Athlete on doing that as well. And you're the same way. Right. So I always say like minds. Track like minds. Yeah. And we're great to have Coach Rocky here as a basketball coach and show his expertise to my daughter, not just my daughter, but all the other basketball kids that come through Total Athlete.
So we know basketball is like really big in Chicago. How would you compare it to what you've seen so far here in Georgia?
Good question.
Well, Georgia down here, they have the football under control, but the basketball is the kids are not getting the type of coaching because we hire coaches up there in our schools. We don't hire teachers, so we're certified coaches.
Okay.
So up there we take and we'll get the kids and we'll start our fall league. We'll lead to our regular season, then we'll go to spring league, and then we'll go to our AAU.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've been able to coach some good kids like Dwyane Wade and Darius Miles and Corey McGetty, Quentin Richardson, and all those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, what was it like coaching Dwyane Wade? I know he's a superstar. He's retired now, but he won all those championships in Miami.
Well, it was kind of funny because Dwyane Wade was on the bench on our team because we had Darius Miles, Quentin Richardson, and Corey McGetty. He was he was a late bloomer. He was kind of a quiet guy when he played with us.
Yeah.
And that was with the Illinois Warriors too, which was Larry Butler was the director, and he ended up going through some things. Ended up in a junior college. He wanted to do some things for his mother, and he took it serious, and he ended up in Marquette for 2 years, and he ended up being like the number 3 pick in the first round.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great story.
And you were saying Dwyane Wade grew 6 inches in a year's time or something like that. He wasn't that tall.
No, he was like about 5'9", and then he in his senior year he was like about 6'3".
Man,
gross person, no show.
Yeah, that is something else. You never know when they're gonna hit him.
Yeah.
I've seen kids go from, like you say, a 5'9" to a 6'1" or a 5'6" to a 6'1". We had one of the kids on our Wall of Fame.
Yeah.
They did the same thing, man. That's awesome, man.
That's cool.
I'm going to tell you something, too. What made me attracted to coming over here with you guys I like the way I notice you edify and you praise and you motivate
Amen.
your student athletes.
Yes.
And I said, this is similar to what I like to do, so, you know.
Yes, no, our coaching styles are a lot similar. And when I heard about you, I met you at the breakfast place. But I met him. But 2 days later, my daughter was talking about him. She said, "There's the guy, Coach Rocky. He was working with me, and he had this glove or something, some glove that you was using for training or something." And she just kept talking about it. Then 2 days later, I met him in the restaurant, and we just got to talking and connected. You know, like I say, man, them kindred spirits, man, they come together. And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, my daughter's Melania." He told me the school he works at, and I was like, "That's the school my daughter goes to." What's her name? "Oh, Melania Johnson." That's my. That's how it all started, man. It just
never even knew who she was.
Never even knew, man.
God is so intentional, man. So I know you've written a couple of books. Tell us about that. How was that process, and what was it about?
Well, I wrote a book called Coaching Rocky's Way because what I thought it was like overkill with coaching, especially down here in Georgia. They seem like they don't understand teaching the skills and drills. They like to just go out and tell them to run 3 miles, run 4 miles. And as me and Dr. Futch, one of the principals that I worked for up there, we noticed, he was a basketball player, we noticed that you have to do stuff that contains the basketball. So what we want to do is like a Kaizen, because I work for aerospace, so it's called continuous improvement. It's called eliminating the waste. So what I said is what we need to work is on pyramids and 17 sideways for the defensive slides and pyramids for running them down the floor.
Right.
And that gets you ready for when the ref might blow the whistle one time and it might not blow for the next 7 trips down the floor.
Yeah. Right.
So I got into that and going to the weightlifting and training, and I said I needed an expert for this stuff. And, you know, unfortunately, that's what I also run into him down here for the expert stuff. Because, you know, you can't do everything, you know.
Yeah, amen. And you're right about that. And that's what's good about building a total athlete is that building a total athlete, to be a total athlete, you must have the foundational stuff, the speed, the agility, the strength, and conditioning.
Yes.
That's the foundation. Then you can build whatever off of that. You know, you can build the football skill training for whatever position, the basketball skill training, baseball, but it's all built off of that foundation.
Yeah.
You know, we're real big in that. And doing the small things right. We pride ourselves on the small things at Total Athlete, and I think it carries over in life when you teach an athlete about focusing on the details. You know, they do that in practice, they do that here, they do that in the games, and it carries over to their everyday life.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, just be more detail-oriented, man,
Yeah.
because you can get a lot. Because if you see a little, you can see a lot.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, it's kind of funny because when I was subbing at Woodland this past year, there was a guy was telling me, "Hey, Rock, you need to get Ashton over to Dwight," and his name is Ross.
Ross, oh
Quarterback.
yeah.
He said, "Cause he'll help
Ross.
excuse me, he'll help you with that quickness and stuff." And man, it's really gonna pay it out too.
Yes.
I'm looking at him now. I just sit out front and let him do it here.
He coming here. I posted on Instagram. It's actually on our stories. Actually, his grandson, working out and doing the box jumps and everything.
Yeah. Cool, that's good, man.
He's so happy with over here, and I'm not gonna hog him this day. That he asked me, could I ask Coach Dwight here if he would let him sign for his college year? I said, I'll ask him.
Yeah, he can. We can. He won't be the first one. We do it all the time. Yeah, we would love for that.
Did he move down here with you from?
I've had him. I've had Ashton since day one. Ashton daddy had an aneurysm when he was 2 years old, so he's always lived with me and my wife and his mother too, my daughter.
Okay.
So
Amen.
they still do.
It's all right, man.
So you're like his father figure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
and that's big, for him to get that, because you're old school, you from the baby boomer generation, Or you the end of the baby boomers, but it's a different type, y'all different type of guys, different type of cats, so he's getting that foundation built right, you know what I mean? He's getting that maturity because he's been raised by his grandfather, and that's big, man. Everything happens for a reason.
That's true.
When I met him, I could tell he was a different cat.
He's old school, ain't he?
He's old school and he's well spoken.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't see kids like that shake your hand, look you in the eyes,
Yeah.
firm handshake. You can see everything about him.
Yeah.
I
appreciate that.
Yes.
So where would you say you get most of your grit from? Was it from more so your Arkansas background or your Chicago background, or kind of combination of both?
It was a combination of both.
Okay.
I did definitely get my discipline from Arkansas, and my hard work and making sure that you do the right thing with others. And as coming up, my grandma always told me that a black man's word is his bond. If he don't have his word, he has nothing. So I was taught that from a young age.
That's real. That's real. And I remember you said, you got your toughness from the Arkansas, not the streets of Chicago.
Sure was Arkansas. On the gravels, barefoot.
On the gravels, barefoot. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah, and we use those things in life. A lot of people look at, you could take your hard times and say, hey, let that pain and turn into power. That's what made me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My hard times are how I came up.
Yes.
Some people come up in a lot of dysfunction and come up hard times, but guess what? That makes you tough and who you are now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always say all things work together for the good.
Yes, sir.
And hey, that's just the way it is. But it prepares you for who you are now.
Yeah.
For you to pass it down to teach my daughter that mental toughness that she needs, to make it and get that edge in basketball.
Yeah. In life, you got to figure out what was your purpose on earth. And I always figured my purpose was to work with kids.
Amen.
I was a Boy Scout. My grandmother ran a little church in Pleasant Hill Baptist Church.
Right. Yes.
So I was. She always helped the young people. And she said, "Rock, you're gonna have to give back. The Lord can give you things you got to give back." So I enjoy working with the young. I can reach them, and it's a different style about reaching them today. You got to be able to listen and understand them.
Amen.
Yeah.
Wow, that's big. You got to be listening and understanding. You're right. You're right.
Because every generation is different, Even when I think about my story, my parents, they're Nigerian. So even though it's a song by you might have heard about this rapper Wale. He talked about how even though, those were his biological parents, at times he felt like he was adopted because of them being raised in Nigeria and being from a whole different generation. It was like they didn't really understand the complexities and the intricacies of being raised American and going to schools here and dealing with the different things that we dealt with. So as they were evolving, we were evolving. As they were growing, we were growing. So they tried to adjust. And I could kind of see how you use that approach with the kids these days, because it's a whole different generation, and sometimes they just think a lot differently.
Well, you have a lot of young kids or having kids at a young age. So when you have a kid at 14, what experience do you have to teach your kid? What a 14-year-old do. So that's why I was raised by. I lived my first 12 years with my grandmother. So my mother was 16 when she had me. So what could she teach me at her age?
Right. Exactly. Wow.
I understand
And that's what happened. I see a lot of these kids, we come here, that young parents, and I'm able to relate to what my grandmother told me, and she gave me a lot of good old sayings, Hey, she said, if it don't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse, so that means don't tell her no story.
I like that one. It don't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse. That's good stuff.
So was basketball the only sport you played, or did you play any other sports?
Basketball is my second sport. My sport is football.
Okay, really? Okay.
And
What position?
I played cornerback and halfback. I played both ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Cool.
The athlete.
Yeah.
So when did you make that transition that your passion was, I know you said, so your first sport is football, but when did you make that transition you wanted to coach basketball specifically?
Well, I was coaching football in the middle school, but then I got into coaching basketball and fell in love with it because I saw where the kids were just frustrated with the coaches. And the thing that I learned is that if a kid is missing layups, don't make them run. Show them the technique on how to do it. So I'd rather take them over on the gym, on the side rim, and let them make 10 layups
Right.
versus make them run.
Right.
Because the rule says that don't punish a kid if he makes a mistake. Show him the skill and don't harp on it. Say it, move on.
Right. So I heard you talking about like it's certain drills and stuff you don't like because you feel like it doesn't necessarily transfer
Right.
to the development of the student athlete. So what are some drills that you think that should be totally eliminated from basketball practice and things like that?
Well, you have the drill where you have them just sitting there taking a charge and stand there and let somebody run over you. That drill's not a good one. If you're going to do that charge drill, put a mat behind them.
Right.
And when they touch him, show the kid how to fall and break himself and catch himself.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's why my grandson had his injury. He stood up there this past year, and the kid come down, a football player, hit him and caught him in his groin, and he gave him a micro tear on it.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's a big one, man. Those tears, I'm a physical therapist, so yeah, those are hard to heal from, and it takes some time. And then even in the clinic, and when you see some kid limping around 13, 14, 15, 16, you automatically refer them back to the MD to get an X-ray to make sure it's nothing more serious going on. So I see that from time to time. That's a big one.
And that was thanks to you letting me know that I should have that MRI done to him when he had him that day, because you stretched him out. And
you just reminded me of that. I forgot about that. Okay.
So
wow.
You told me, right, go get him, get an MRI done. And that's where we saw the micro tear.
Wow. I totally forgot about that. I just brought it up out the blue. Wow.
That's crazy.
Okay. Yeah, I see so many of that, so much of that. It's totally slipped my mind. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, tell us more about your book, and then how can the people go and find it online?
Well, it's Coaching Rocky's Way, and it's on Amazon.com. What the book tells you is how to run an effective practice. I don't run my practice no longer than an hour and a half, because after a while the kid is he's going to already absorb all he's going to do, and he's going to just be brain dead anyway.
Correct.
So my thing is this: do not do running at the end of practice. Do your conditioning or your pyramids or whatever at the beginning of practice.
Right.
Then you go to your drills. You utilize your assistant coaches. Put them at all the hoops, big mans, guards, shooting drills, and you utilize as much as those kids can. So you don't have to waste a lot of time, because what coaches do want to go 3 hours, and they have kids sitting out on the side, 4 or 5 assistants sitting there. Well, he wants to do everything,
Right.
and you want to utilize your coaches. Get the kids an hour and a half and get them out of it and let them get home and do their homework.
Yeah.
That's good. So you have a structure to teach everybody to work efficiently.
Right.
Pretty much. That's
Definitely.
big. That's big. And that's how we do at our facility. We believe we have a whole training manual as well. You warm up for the first 5 minutes. The muscles warm, then you go into active dynamic warm up, then you go into the speed training. But everything's built off of a system.
Yeah.
As you're saying, Coach Rock has a system in place. If you want to be successful in anything, you must have a system.
Right.
You must have a successful system. Everything runs off a system.
Yep. There's no secret to success.
That's right.
There's systems to success.
There are systems to success.
Yeah. Once you figure out the system, you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
And even in a person's personal life, what do you do? Just like at Dr. O, you say, hey, I get up at 5. I come here, Dr. O's waiting on us. 5 in the morning, I do meditation, or then I read my book. That's the same with me. We have a book club that we're in, and every day we're doing certain things because we're practicing those good habits. Yeah. Just like I was telling my daughter when she's out there shooting, keep shooting the ball the same way every time. Now, it may not go in the first or the second time, but if you keep shooting it the same way, you're gonna get positive results because you're performing positive habits.
Right.
Yeah. At some point, it's like a bell curve. It's gonna go up. You know what I mean? So if a person doing bad habits and good habits and it's bad habits, they're gonna stay the same for a little while, but after a while, them bad habits gonna start going this way. Positive habits gonna start going up.
That's kind of funny you said bell curve. That's a good one, because aerospace used that.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff. You use barrel curve, Kaizen, because you can't